prior knowledge of what it is that the story is about. I mean, that the poem is about. Thank You Man by Langston Hughes. Just given the title, what might you think we were about to read about? Mr. Dawson.
A lady helping someone out, like a child or someone that's in need of help.
A lady helping a child out, someone that's in need of help.
Teaching someone a lesson.
Teaching someone a lesson.
Maybe someone who is grateful for something a woman did to help them.
Something that someone is grateful for, something that someone did. All right, Mr. Rivar.
It was probably like a conflict between two men, two boys, and a lady stepped in and she helped her, and she like stopped the conflict out and helped the boy.
All right, Mr. Taylor, you have something? Somebody who's doing community service. All right, now, we've talked about inferences before, right?
Yeah.
We talked about context clues before, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what's an inference? Khalil?
An educated guess about a story.
An educated guess about something. All right, so if we were going off of our inferences and what we've already discussed through our do now and our big question, what might we come to the conclusion about this poem having to do with? Like, let's try that again. Mr. Norman?
This is dealing with violence.
Dealing with violence or something? Mr. Brooks?
Excuse me, can you take Jeremiah Taylor down with his belongings, please?
Yes?
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Taylor?
The story will have a conflict in it. The story will have a conflict in it. It may not be as basic or as long, but it will have a conflict that the lady helped solve.
Okay, so there might be a conflict that the lady helped to solve. All right, so everybody has the story in front of them. Pull it up to the front. All right, and we're just going to read the first paragraph of it, and then in the close reading, you'll read the rest on your own. All right, so I'm going to read you the first paragraph. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but a hammer and nails. It had a long strap, and she carried it slung across her shoulder. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and she was walking along when a boy ran up behind her and tried to snatch her purse. The strap broke with a single tug. The boy gave it from behind. But the boy's weight and the weight of the purse combined caused him to lose his balance. So, instead of taking off full blast, as he had hoped, the boy fell on his back on the sidewalk. His legs flew up. The large woman simply turned around and kicked him right square in his blue jean sitter. Then she reached down, picked the boy up by his shirt front, and shook him until his teeth rattled. Now, just given the title, will we expect that to have happened in the first stanza, the first paragraph?
No.
No, we wouldn't have. Now, think about that. It just said a young teenage boy, right? All right, so you guys are young teenage boys, all right? Think about that. What do you think may have been going through his head prior to making that decision? Mr. Quintero.
See, I think he might have been, he wanted some money to buy some new J's or something. So that's why he stole a lady's purse, because he wanted some money.
All right, Mr. Brooks.
He copied something that he seen on TV.
Copy something. He wanted money to buy new Jordans. All right, that's fair enough, because that's the kind of things that you guys think about. All right. So, all right, Mr. Norman.
Or he was trying to snatch the purse because he was hungry.
Might have been trying to snatch the purse because he was hungry. All right, Mr. Kirk.
Or he could have tried to snatch the purse to take some money to probably not only get food for himself, but for family or people who need it.
Okay. So, all right, one more, Mr. Dunbar.
He probably was trying to impress his friend.
Alright, so we've had 4 different people to answer, and we've had 4 different possible scenarios. Alright, somebody said he wanted money to buy himself some shoes. So it was a materialistic thing. Then Mr. Norman said, well, he may have just been hungry, and he may have felt like that was his only way to go about getting food. And then Mr. Kirk followed up on that and saying, you know, it might have been for him and his family. And then Mr. Dunbar said it could have been peer pressure. So it could have been a number of reasons why he wanted to do it, but does any of them make it right?
No.
None of them make it right, right? Why was it wrong, Samaj?
Because you don't need to steal anybody else's hard-earned money to make it wrong.
You're breaking the 10 Commandments for one.
Breaking the 10 Commandments, okay. Mr. Cox?
Well, it's not fair to the other person's stuff that you're stealing because they work hard for it and you're just gonna get something that easy.
Mr. Norman?
It can be something it could have been something in that lady's purse that she needed to survive.
Could have been medicine that she needed to survive. Very well. So, I mean, you can think about things from a number of different perspectives. That lady could have been your what? Grandmother. Could have been somebody's mom, you know?
Someone's daughter.
Somebody's aunt, somebody's daughter, mother, friend, all of those things. All of those things. People, you know, people don't deserve certain things. You go through things in life, and sometimes things get difficult to handle. But you have to always stay on the right side of things. You have to always stay on the right side of things. Because in situations where there's conflict, depending on the level of conflict, somebody can always lose if there's no resolution. For instance, to go back to the incident that happened over the weekend. A man lost his life. Children lost their father. Parents lost a son. A wife lost a husband. The rest of his family lost a family member. But then you have to also think about the guy who committed the crime. Think about his family. If he has kids, they lost their father. He has parents. They lost their son. Because like we said, okay, this man lost his life, but in essence, he lost his life as well, because if convicted, he'll go to jail for a very, very long time. He'll go to jail for a very, very long time. So, I implore you to always think before you act. If there's a situation where you're not getting through it, what should you do? If you can. Like, okay, so if you and Mr. Norman are having issues and it's constant and you can't get through, what should you do?
Think of a compromise to where,
Excuse me, can you send Khalil Cox to the office a minute, please?
Okay, thank you.
or we could think of a compromise to say we were arguing, we could possibly, we were arguing in the classroom, we could possibly sit away from each other so the argument won't continue.
Okay, let's say we've done all of that. We have exhausted all of the options that the two of us can exhaust. What should you do at that point, Taj?
Ask for help from an adult.
Ask for help. Ask for help from an adult. Don't be too proud to ask for the help. Well, I mean, if that isn't working, let's say one person is an aggressor and the other is not, and you try to leave them alone and that doesn't work. So at that point, you should ask for help. But remember always to think before you act. Now, we're gonna finish reading this story to find out what exactly it was, to see if we can find out what exactly it was that caused the young man to do this to the lady. All right? All right. Now, this is a close reading assignment, so begin to read to yourselves.